If this is you, you finally stopped reaching out. Stop trying to decode her silence. Stop being the one who always checks in, always initiates, always cares a little too much. Not because you don't feel anything anymore, but because you're tired of feeling everything alone. Maybe this feels familiar. You used to replay every interaction, wondering what you said, what you missed, what you could have done better. You tell yourself she's just busy or guarded or scared of love. But deep down, there sits this quiet ache. Why am I the only one showing up? And now, you should have gone quiet. You didn't set announce it. You didn't set slam the door. You just stopped knocking. But even in your silence, you start still wondering, is she thinking about me? Did she even notice I spun gone? Did my absence shake something in her, or was I never something to begin with? You want to believe she cares, that your distance means something? But part of you is scared that she's sleeping just fine, that your silence is easier for her than your presence ever was. So here you are, sitting in the stillness you never asked for, asking yourself the one question that keeps echoing in your chest. What does a woman really think when you finally stop chasing her? Most men get this situation wrong from the very beginning, not because they're weak, but because they were taught wrong. They were told that love is earned through effort. That if you want a woman, you chase her, prove yourself, win her over, be relentless. But there's a difference between leading with intention and chasing out of insecurity. That's what most men don't see. They think the more they chase, the more she'll value them. But the truth is, the more you chase something that's unsure of you, the more you become unsure of yourself. This is where the shift happens. A grounded man, a man who's in his masculine center, doesn't move from fear. He doesn't pour energy into someone who isn't meeting him with clarity. He doesn't try to convince a woman to feel something she's not showing because he understands something deeper. Masculine energy does not chase. It creates space and it attracts. It sets not a line. It sets a law. When a man is truly centered, when he's rooted in who he is, he doesn't need to beg for closeness. He doesn't need to fill the silence with text calls or over-explaining. He knows silence reveals what words often hide. That's what this whole situation is really about. Not her. You. You think pulling back will make you lose her. But pulling back with calm, with presence, with clarity is often the only way to see whether she was ever truly there. Most men never give themselves that clarity. They stay stuck in a loop. She pulls away, they chase harder. She sends mixed signals, they double down. She gives less, they give more, hoping that maybe their effort will somehow create her desire. But it doesn't work like that. Desire cannot be forced. Respect cannot be begged for. Connection cannot be chased into existence. Here sits what a grounded man understands. If a woman pulls away, it's her energy that just taught him something. He doesn't take it personally. He observes and he listens, not just to her words, but to her behavior. This is emotional strength. Not the kind that flexes muscles or raises its voice, but the kind that doesn't flinch when things get quiet. Because here's the core masculine principle. You don't set chase alignment. You recognize it. And when it sits not there, you don't set collapse. You let go. And in that letting go, something beautiful happens. You return to yourself. You stop waiting for someone to choose you. You start choosing yourself, not from ego, but from wisdom. Because here sits the paradox most men don't see. When you stop chasing her, that's when she starts thinking. That's when the silence you left behind starts speaking louder than any message you ever sent. That's when she begins to feel something she couldn't feel while you were always available. And here sits why a woman can miss you if you never leave. She can't feel your value if she never had to risk losing it. She can't meet you in your masculine if you're always showing up in your neediness. So what happens when you stop chasing? You create space, and in that space she reveals herself. Not just in what she says, but in what she chooses when you're no longer carrying the entire connection on your back. Some women will pull away for good. They reach out. They care. And that will hurt. But it will also be the gift. Because now you know, now you're free. Others, they still feel the shift. They still feel the weight of your absence. They'll realize that you were never chasing out a weakness. You were chasing out a hope. And when that stops, they feel the void. But either way, you didn't lose anything by stepping back. You regained yourself, This is what most men don't fit realize. Chasing isn't sit love. Pulling back isn't sex cruelty, it's sex clarity, and your presence isn't a performance, it's a gift. So the next time you feel tempted to over-explain yourself, to prove yourself, to run after her silence, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, is this love or is this fear? Am I trying to lead or am I trying to please? Am I still showing up in my masculine, or have I started chasing her because I forgot my own worth? The man who stops chasing isn't the man who gave up. He sets the man who grew up. He chose emotional responsibility over emotional addiction. He chose stillness over seeking. He chose truth over attention. And when you operate from that place, you don't need to chase anyone ever again. Because the right woman will recognize your stillness as strength, your silence as clarity, and your presence as something rare, not something desperate. And if she doesn't sit, you didn't lose her. You dodged settling for less than you were made for. That's what she really thinks when you stop chasing her. She sees the man you were all along, not the one who begged, but the one who became. And now the only question left is, will you keep chasing her, or will you start becoming him? It had been 4 days. 4 days since he said Ted last messaged her. No double text, no just checking in, no late night call to ask if she made it home safe, nothing. And that silence, it was louder than any fight they ever had. She sat curled up on the edge of her couch, scrolling through her phone, pretending she wasn't looking for his name, but every swipe told the truth, she was. The TV murmured in the background. Some romantic movie played on mute, casting flickers of warm light across the room, but her mind wasn't there. It was somewhere else. Back in that coffee shop where he once leaned across the table, looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Back in that moment when he laughed at her sarcasm, not because it was funny, but because it was hers. She glanced at her phone again, still nothing. He always used to check in by now. Did he move on? Is he talking to someone else? Does he even care? And then came the one question she wasn't ready to face. Did he stop chasing me because he realized I never really met him halfway? That one hit deeper than she'd admit, because she remembered. She remembered the way he used to show up for her, gently, consistently, the way he tried to read the silence between her words, the way he'd ask how she really was, even when she tried to act fine. But she also remembered brushing him off, not answering for hours, smiling at his messages but not replying right away just to see if he'd try again, and he always did, until now. Now, the silence was hers. She hated that. It made her wonder. Hated that. It made her question her choices. But what she hated most was how deeply she felt his absence. Because somewhere in that quiet, she finally saw the difference between a man who chased for attention and a man who showed up with presence, and she had treated them the same. But this time he didn't play that game. He just stopped. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of respect for himself. And she could feel it. Not in words, not in arguments, but in that haunting space where his attention used to live. She wanted to reach out, but she didn't stay. Because if she did, she'd start to have to admit she felt something real. And she wasn't sure she could handle that truth. So she stayed silent, hoping he'd break first. But deep down, a part of her already knew he wasn't being silent to win. He was being silent because he finally knew his worth. Most men grow up believing that love is earned through effort, that if you want her, you chase her, that if she pulls away, you chase harder, and if she doesn't respond, it just means you're supposed to prove your worth even more. But that belief, while it sounds romantic, is rooted in fear, the fear of not being chosen, the fear of not being enough unless someone else confirms it. Here sits the truth. Most men don't sit here. If your value has to be proven constantly, you're not in love. You're in emotional survival. You're not building a connection. You're fighting for validation. And here sits the first false belief that needs to break. If I stop chasing, she still forget me. No. If you stop chasing and she forgets you, you were never held in her heart to begin with. What you've called loyalty might actually be emotional submission, trying to earn closeness through self-sacrifice. And the longer you play that role, the more invisible you become. Viral quote. She didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself trying to keep her interested. Here sits the second false belief. My effort will eventually change how she feels. Listen to me. Her feelings aren't set broken. They stir, just not aligned with yours. You're not her fixer. You're not her proof that good men exist. You're not responsible for changing her mind, especially when she's showing you in 100 small ways that her energy isn't matching yours. What the emotionally grounded man understands is this. Pulling back isn't set weakness, it sets clarity. You're not abandoning her, you're returning to yourself. You start not giving up, you start waking up. Viral quote. You start not losing her when you stop chasing. You start finding you. When you finally stop chasing, one of two things happens. Both are gifts. She either steps forward because she feels the difference, or she lets go because she never felt it in the first place. Either way, you win. Because the only thing more powerful than being wanted is being respected for not needing to be. The 3% man doesn't ask a chase. He chooses. He knows the difference. This is what he understands. That energy speaks louder than words. That when a woman pulls away, she's not always testing him. Sometimes she's simply showing him who she is right now. And instead of reacting from fear, instead of overcompensating, instead of flooding her with attention, hoping to be seen, you stand still. Not cold, but calm. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. He doesn't make her the center of his emotional stability. He doesn't place his self-worth in her responses. He understands that attraction isn't sustained by pursuit, it's sustained by alignment. He doesn't play games. He just doesn't need to beg to be chosen. Because the 3% man already chose himself. This is what makes him rare, not perfect, not manipulative, but emotionally anchored. Where others get anxious, he gets quiet. Where others demand answers, he listens to patterns. Where others rush to fill silence, he uses silence to observe. When a woman pulls back, he doesn't set panic. He notices, he feels it. But he doesn't spiral. Because he knows if her feelings are real, they'll return without force. And if they aren't, he's not afraid to lose what was never truly his. He doesn't resent her for shifting. He simply realigns with reality. He leads with emotional clarity, not the need to be needed. The 3% man is grounded in this truth. That love offered freely, without self-betrayal, will never need to be chased. That sips the shifts. From proving your worth to protecting your peace. She stopped texting. The silence wasn't loud, it was hollow. Like walking into a room that used to smell like her perfume and now it's just air. You kept checking your phone, not because you wanted her to reply, but because a part of you felt like you were disappearing with every hour she didn't. Maybe you told yourself you were being calm, that giving her space was the right move. But in the quiet, your mind kept chasing her anyway. What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? Should I have said more, fought harder? And that's when something cracked. Not in the world, but in you. You realized this wasn't sets about her anymore. It wasn't sit even about the text. It was about that young boy inside you still waiting to be chosen. Still tying his value to being seen. Still whispering, maybe if I just wait a little longer, she'll still come back. But in that pause, something deeper stirred. Not anger, not bitterness, but memory. You remembered who you were before you handed your power to someone else's attention. You remembered that your worth doesn't shrink in someone's absence. That being a man isn't about chasing validation, it's about standing with open hands, not empty ones. You sat with the silence, and this time it didn't static. It held you, it reminded you. You're not unloved just because she stepped back. You're not forgotten just because she didn't respond. You're just remembering yourself. Not to win her back, but to never lose you again. She wasn't testing if you'd chase, she was hoping you'd remember you never had to